You've alluded to parents. You sort of alluded to the Bible, David, where your name came from.
Mm.
There's a certain amount of like stoicism that I pick up from you, and there's also and this is what intrigued me. I think when I first heard you, and I go, this guy is very controlled. So that can go a couple different ways. That could go, like, for me, it could be like this dude's thinking about every single thing, every word that's coming out of his mouth, every action. It's very planned, it's at some level, but he's also ready if something that it could be somewhat unexpected happens. I have a contingency for this, I have a contingency for that. And then the other side of that is that's just somebody who's constantly watching over their shoulder and almost over vigilant in the sense that, I'm having to stay calm because I'm ready to jump, right? At any point. And so I think there's a double-edged sword there that can be. I just wonder where that came from for you. Was it mom and dad that are driving this? Was it church? Was it who influenced this, or just something that this is just who you are?
I think all those things are definitely influences. My mom and dad, super disciplined. I'm a pastor's kid, right? Like both my parents were pastors of a church growing up as a kid. So like I grew up in that atmosphere.
Gotcha.
My uncles, like I said, they're super influential over, my upbringing. Both like super, like they could have been pro athletes if they actually went that route, in my opinion, but in everybody else's opinion, aside from their own. But, they were just very disciplined. My parents are super disciplined. Discipline was a big thing at the house. So that was always kind of there. As far as like the other thing, like I remember as a kid, like I would always vision, like, we drive by a house or a building. It's like, I always wondered, like, can I get on top of it? Like, can I get there with nobody seeing me? I don't know. My brain just always worked a certain way. It's difficult to explain, but I always thought about like, hey, what if somebody broke into the house? Or what if this guy tried to grab me? Like, I always thought about those things. It wasn't like paranoia. I think it was more or less like I wouldn't consider myself paranoid.
Maybe that's the word I was looking
just
for.
Aware. Just aware. Just, not naive. And I think some of that's like being raised in like you're going to have a level of street smarts that, people raised in the, in a rural environment don't have.
Yeah. So I've had this conversation with people that I think, and this is going to come up later, but that maybe don't fully understand and respect the realities of the world that they live in. And as an example, I'll just use this as an example. It's kind of a made up example. If I roll up to a gas station, I'm sitting at the gas station and I see a guy hanging outside the door of the gas station, and maybe looks a little disheveled, pacing, walking, maybe pacing, kind of looking a little edgy, if you will. My reaction to that is, hey, babe, keep an eye on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just be aware.
Right.
Just keep an eye on this guy. Some people look at that is so judgmental of you to look at what could be a homeless person or somebody that we don't call them that here anymore, by the way. In San Jose, we call them the unhoused. Calling them homeless is derogatory, apparently. Maybe is suffering from some type of psychosis because of the drugs they're on or the drugs they're not on. Maybe it's enhanced by some other illicit substance that they may or may not be using.
Right.
There's a lot of things there. And my judgment comes from my experience in being accosted, actually being attacked, seeing this play out in that same way for other people. And so people look at me like I'm a bad guy, for being judgmental. But I'm okay being judgmental because it comes with, for me, that's awareness of my environment. That doesn't mean I'm going over there to attack the guy. I'm not going to go over and say anything to the guy. Like, I'm not expecting that he's going to do anything. I'm just aware. And so there is a judgment there. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. And so what you're saying is like these built up experiences, happen. And so it's not a paranoia.
Right.
It is hey, I just know there's potential out there for things to not be so right. This person sort of fits the framework of what that may or may not have looked like in my personal experiences. So I'm just going to make sure that I make the people around me aware of, that fact, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. It doesn't, it's not about, I have poor morality, in that. And I think this is going to come up again, But going back to who you are and how you're raised in I wonder if I could get up on that building without anybody seeing me. That kind of thing. And the stealing the drugs, the crack from the crack dealers across the street or the house next door and throwing it away. How does that play out in police work? Like how, as you get into the police world, and you already kind of say you weren't the favorite around there because sounds like you're probably an overachiever. That's maybe how I would describe that. There's nothing bad about that. But how does that play out as you get into this role and you're dealing with the streets of, the East Coast?
Yeah, man. I mean, having family, friends that, were in the streets and having that exposure, right? Like some training, some experiences inferred, right? You don't necessarily live it firsthand. My dad grew up in like inner city New York, right? Like high rises. Tons of experience that was inferred there. Like, hey, we pay attention to this because that's what these guys do. And that's the way they used to do this and used to do that. So as a kid, we always got those kind of messages from my dad, right? Those little life lessons that, most people would. I remember there's times when my dad would talk about stuff. My mom would be like, hey, don't. Yeah. My dad's like, no, they need to know this. Like, same. We're raising men and they need to know this because if they don't know this can be used against them. So he was always good with that. Movies, like the movies they do nowadays are not like they used to do back in the day, but just as a kid is like, I don't think I knew better necessarily. Like I thought that was like real to a degree.
Oh, the cinema, you mean?
Oh yeah. Like the actual movies, man. Like so much you pick up from there that I think obviously some stuff is total garbage. Yeah. And then other things like you can pick up on.
There could be some reality to this,
So yeah, going into it, like, I can't, like, all I ever wanted to do was this. So going into it, it was like, it was never a job, right? Like this is why God put me on the planet.
This is your destiny.
Like God made me to do this job. That's why I'm here. That's why I think the way I think. That's why I train the way I train. Like everything has led up to this one thing, So.